Hey, what's up, guys? Do you run an e-commerce store and you're worried that it might be running a little bit too slow or that it's just dragging? Having a slow website can be a killer for your customers. It can also be a killer for SEO. Today, I'm going to help you find out if that's actually the problem and what you can do about it. Let's go. Before we get going, please be sure to like this video, and if you know someone whose website is just too slow, please, for the love of God, share this video with them. Hey, thanks for watching this video. My name's Peter. I'm going to be your guide today. I'm also going to keep things pretty simple. I'm not a web development expert and I'm not a web host. These are things that we commonly see at our agency with our SEO team and our paid search advertising team, and we think it could help you. So buckle up. There's a lot to cover. We're going to keep it pretty simple, and I think at the end of it, you'll know what to do to fix those page load speed times. Why don't we start by looking at some resources that we commonly use at our agency to understand the problem a little bit better. The place we probably spend the most time is going to be Page Speed Insights. It's a tool by Google, and it's really good at telling us if indeed our website is slow and where the problem areas are. Because Google uses a mobile-first indexing policy, meaning that when they're looking at your website for either algorithmic purposes or looking how to rank your site compared to others or just trying to see the health of your site, they're going to look at the mobile version of your website, since nowadays more web page viewing happens on a mobile device. So we'll spend the most time there in that tool today, looking at some of the metrics that are within there. You can also look at your Search Console. Search Console is another Google tool. It used to be called Webmaster Tools, and you can check out a section called Web Vitals for some key metrics. This is a tool that we haven't used a ton, but we've recently seen it coming up a lot in internet chatter. And it's actually really great because it gives some detail in terms of what a web page is trying to load, how big it is, how long it's taking. And so we see that this is a favorite tool for a lot of web developers and hosting admins. And it also gives you a contrasting picture to what Insights shows. And then this resource, web.dev, is a great resource for building websites on the web. If you go to web.dev/LCP, you'll get some more definitions and understanding of some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So let's take a look at a couple metrics that I want to talk about. I will talk about a couple other metrics in a few minutes, but these two, for me, seem to be the most applicable in terms of trying to fix page speed load time. And the reason why is because when there are issues related to page speed load time, typically it's falling within these metrics. And for both of these metrics, you pretty much do the same thing. So the first one is called First Contentful Paint. And what that means is that it's looking at how long it takes for your website to load the first piece of content so that it's visible to the viewer. It's also the first indication to a viewer that the website is in fact loading. The second metric that we'll probably spend the most time with is largest contentful paint. And what LCP means is it's how long it's taking for your website to render the largest block of content, whether that's a text block or an image within the browser or the viewport. So, Google likes to score these things, and because when LCP is loaded, typically it's the largest element. That means most of your site, not always, but most of the time, most of the site's loaded by the time the largest block is visible. And so they're going to judge LCP a lot harsher than they would FCP. And as you can see from this diagram below, you have a scoring system, and it's very easy for someone to get a green FCP
score, I think you have to have it at less than 1 second, but on LCP you have 2.5 seconds to get most of the website rendered. So it's very common that you see when you put your website into the Page Speed Insights tool that it ends up with a needs improvement or a poor score. So let's take a look at Wayfair. I brought Wayfair up because they're a big e-commerce store. I think this is a good example, and this is what it looks like within Page Speed Insights. This is probably the first place I would go once I thought that the website was being slow. And you don't have to just enter a domain. You can enter any web page on the domain, and it will give you a separate score specifically for that web page. So you see here, in the first column, you have first contentful paint, which we just defined there, and largest contentful paint. And you'll see that it takes a little bit longer for the largest contentful paint to load in 1.9 seconds, and that's green. What they're saying is that falls within the window of what's considered good. And the first contentful paint, the first time something actually loads that's visible, it is red, and that's actually a bad score. I think they want you to be less than 1 second for that. The thing is they're going to judge the first contentful paint more crucially because it's the first thing that comes up. It should just come up within the blink of an eye. And so I think if it's under a second, you'll get a better score there. You see on the right side, there's two other metrics: first input delay and cumulative layout shift. And these are things that we don't look at as close. Really quick, first input delay basically says, like, if you do an action on the site as a user, that's how long it's going to take for the website to do something about it. And then cumulative layout shift, it has a lot to do with other things that show up within the layout, whether that's additional text or resizing of videos. And a lot of that happens after the main page has been loaded. So today we're going to talk mostly about LCP, or largest contentful paint. In Search Console's Web Core Vitals, they also show first input delay and cumulative layout shift, which are also important metrics to be looking at. I feel largest contentful paint is more relevant to a wider array of websites out there that are trying to improve their page speed time. First input delay is usually pretty good if the things are loading, and cumulative layout shift really pertains to websites that have a lot of add-ons like AdSense or videos that render way later, usually from an ad or some external third-party element. So ways to optimize for page speed. We really look at 3 different areas when we're trying to optimize for page speed. First off, we want to look and see, does the website have the resource it needs from its server? So we'll contact the hosting administrator, we'll contact whoever is in charge of that at the company or at our client's office, and try to ascertain whether or not during the busiest times of the day the website has enough resources to load pages. And they typically have some tests that they can easily run to find this out. And so when you are hosting your site on a shared server, or if it doesn't have enough bandwidth or enough RAM on the server, the website can get very slow during the busiest times of the day. So we always want to address that. The second thing that we can do from our own office is look at the website images. And we're typically looking for a couple different things. I mean, we're looking to see, are there a lot of images? And the images that are there, how big are the files? Now that's different than how big is the image on the website. So you can use CSS or some styling tags to make the image smaller, and that's typically what happens when you see thumbnail images listed in on a collections page or on a category page. But when you actually look at the file that a website is using to propagate that image, what that means is that the image that it's actually using to make that photo, no matter how big it is, if that's the full size image and you're using a lot of images on the page, it's going to be a lot of it's going to take a lot of time for that page to load. So if you have a Shopify store, Shopify, what they do is they actually take the image that you upload, let's say for a product, and then they'll make a few different sizes automatically. They'll actually make copies of it, and some of the copies will be very small, so those will help the web page load much faster when it's on a collections page or a category page. And the last thing that's probably one of the most complicated things to understand is going to be, and this is an opportunity that we typically see in the page speed insights, and that's to remove render blocking JavaScript or CSS. When you see that, there's typically a list of pages or a list of scripts that are problem scripts that they want you to fix. And so one way to start or to get some segue on that is to use apps, plugins, or extensions for the website that will automatically do a lot of that for you. And what they're doing is they're taking the various scripts that are on the page. I don't want to get too technical, but they can really be categorized into a few different types of scripts. There are those that don't need to be there at all. There are those that are spread apart and they can be condensed together, which means to minify them. And some of them can also be combined into the same script, and that's called concatenation. And these plugins and extensions, apps, they automatically do a lot of this for you. A lot of the scripts that are used to load a page oftentimes are not necessary for the visible elements to load on a page. So what that means is that, when Page Speed Insights is trying to load the visible part of the page, considering the page loaded, there are a lot of scripts that can be ran after that process has been done. So it actually doesn't slow the loading of the site. And a lot of these tools will help you to do that. Another thing you can do if you have a lot of images in on a category page or on a collections page is you can have your web developer use something called pagination or a lazy load. And a pagination just means that you're going to see more of your products on separate pages. That's when you click to see more products. A lazy load is when you scroll to see more products. And as you go down, essentially the website is not loading the additional images until the viewer needs them. And that is a common type of CSS that's used these days, and that will help reduce drastically the length of time it takes to load the page because you're not loading it all at once. All right, guys, I want to leave you with one last thing. Back into Page Speed Insights. I'm going to scroll down a little bit just to get to this section where you see opportunities. And here for Wayfair, we see two opportunities. One is to remove unused JavaScript, and the other is to defer off-screen images. Those plugins and tools, I don't know what Wayfair is using. Typically for a website, an e-commerce store can be used, and they'll be very, very effective in doing these things, and typically whatever's listed here under opportunities. If you see a lot of things related to image size, they also can help because they'll reduce the image size, they'll crunch the image, and you can see a list of everything here that's listed under diagnostics. But here for Wayfair, they want to defer off-screen images, so these are images that don't necessarily need to be loaded for the first contentful paint to mark the time. Also, they want to remove unused JavaScript, and this is probably the biggest killer for Wayfair. By the way, Wayfair is, that site loads pretty quick, but for the sake of this example, it's good that you see that it's saying it's 5 seconds, which may be different than what you experience if you were to actually search for Wayfair. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this. If you have questions or comments, please put those in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer those. And don't forget to like the video. We will see you next time. Take care. Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you found the video helpful, please give it a like. That's how we're going to know that we're on the right track with the content that we're putting out. And if you want to get more e-commerce or marketing related videos from us, just gently click that bell icon down below and we'll let you know as soon as we publish anything at all. And if you have any questions or ideas, things that you want us to talk about, don't forget to leave those in the comments. All right, you ready? Let's go.